this week. Main focus this week is going to be that overhead squat. Okay, so same position for our snatch. Now last week we covered that snatch pull, and we open up those ankles, open up hips, open up that shoulders as well. Okay, now we're going to keep a lot of those stretches the same, a lot of mobility work we did last week. We're going to carry over this week, just so we can retest, show you guys the progress that we've been making if you've been working on. Okay, now we are going to add a couple additional exercises there. First one is going to be focused on those hips. Okay, so all we're doing there is coming down to a lunge to begin with, looking for a nice vertical position in that front leg, and then from there I'm thinking about sending the hips forward and down. Okay, that's when we're going to feel that stretch in the back leg, but from that starting position, down into that stretch, my chest stays tall. Okay, so from that lunge, let those hips sit forward and down, and then you should feel that stretch all the way through the back leg, through that hip. Okay, now once you've found that stretch, we're going to hold that for a little bit, and then our first one is just going to be a rotation away from that back leg. Okay, so you're going to try to reach that back heel, going to rotate round, see you touch that heel of the back leg, again keep that chest tall, and then rotate back round. Okay, next one is going to focus on a little bit of lateral flexion there, so we're bringing I've got my right leg back, I'm going to bring my right hand up, and then we'll reach over, again keeping that chest tall. You should feel that stretch increase through the back leg, through a little bit of midline to the side, and then through the lat as well. Okay, so I'm going to reach over as far as I can, find that stretch, and then hold it there. Okay, last one is going to be putting the two together. So we're going to bring one hand up, we're going to reach over, and then we're going to rotate around, try and touch that back heel. Okay, that should be a very intense stretch, but we're going to go through the first two first. Okay, loosen off and sit flow. Now, once we're through that one, next one is going to focus on those ankles. Okay, the main focus here is going to be on the outside of the calf, and then through the ankle as well. Okay? Grabbing bench, box, chair, wherever you've got around the house, and put one foot on the object. You're then going to stretch forward. If you can get that low, pushing our knee over our toe. If you can, grab hold of the bench, allow yourself to pull down. You should feel that stretch increase. We're going to hold that and then ease off. Okay, again, main focus there is on that dorsiflexion, so outside the calf and then through the ankle as well. Okay? Now we will go back into ankle stretch that we used last week, just so again you guys can see the progress we've been making from last week. Okay? Now once we're through that, next one is going to be our goblet squat hold. So if you have a weighted object around the house, dumbbell, kettlebell, whatever it may be, if we can, we're going to use that. So set our feet on our squat stance, toes pointed slightly out. Again, ideally we're going to have those feet underneath hips, but it's going to be personal preference here. Okay, whatever allows you to sit down in that full length squat comfortably. Okay? Now with that object, you're just going to stand out in front of you. You don't have to straighten out those arms. It just needs to be extended a little bit for you. Okay? Hips are going back and down, knees round out, down into that full length squat if we can. Now before we think about doing anything else, we're going to make sure we hit those points of our squat. Okay, chest is tall, knees are driving out, weights in my heels, and make sure I'm not going too low that I start to see that butt wing rounding in the back. Okay, so chest tall, back flat if we can, driving those knees out. I'm then going to allow that object to drift out in front of me, use it as a counterbalance. It should force you a little bit lower down with that squat. Okay, now once we're comfortable there, we're going to let those elbows drop down onto our knees, and then one at a time, pushing the knee over the toe, letting one heel just come slightly off the floor, and then back to the start, swapping sides there. Now what you should notice is as you come back into that squat, there's a little less of stretch, those ankles will loosen off a little more. Okay? So that's your goblet squat hold. If that's too much, we're going to go to a doorway, door, whatever you've got, using a structure just for a little bit of balance and a little bit of an aid. Okay? So hips go back and down, just grab hold of that doorway, and then as you need it, use it for a little bit of help to get out of that squat, make it a little more comfortable. Okay? And then last one is going to be our socks press. So again, nice and specific to our overhead squat. We're going to start with whatever object you used last week, so mop panel, broomstick, whatever you've got, on our back. Okay? Now if you're going to be setting our squat stance, if you need to go slightly wider with your feet for the overhead squat, you can do for just now. Okay? And then just making sure those hands are nice and wide to begin with. Ideally, you can do a full pass through with our chosen grip. Okay? I would start wider. If it's too easy, you can always work your hands in as you go through this. Okay? Now, before I go, I'm going to go for some behind the neck strict presses first. Okay? So just getting the idea of pressing that bar up, finishing with the bar over the crown of your head, keeping that core tight, make sure there's no rounding in that back. Okay? So with elbows underneath where the object you've got, driving up, extend those arms. Again, ideally the bars will be over the crown of your head there. Okay, so just over your center of mass. Once we're through a couple reps there, we're then going to come down to quarter squat first. Okay, so hips going back and down, knees drive out, just slightly breaking those knees and hips first. We're then going to go forward, some press again. Try and hold that position if that's doable for you. We're going to come a little bit lower down into that squat, driving that bar up again, going through those reps, try and keep that chest tall. If that's doable, we're then going to come down to that full depth squat, and then same again, driving that bar up, keeping the chest tall. Okay? So that's going to be your sauce press there. Again, we're going to break that down. If just a slight flex in those hips and in those knees is a good stretch for you, that's fine. We're going to stick with that for this week, and then as you then go through those weeks, you can progress down into that full sauce press if possible. Okay? So those are your additional movements there that we're going to add to that mobility protocol first, and then our main focus again is just going to be on our overhead squat. Okay, so we'll spend some time at the end breaking down that movement and make sure everyone's moving well through that receiving position. Okay?